Welcome back to Dr. Emerson's Materia Medica session.
This video is about Aconitum napellus. Aconite is generally indicated in acute or recent cases occurring in young person, especially girls of full plethoric habit who lead a sedentary life. Persons of dark hair and eyes, rigid muscular fiber and easily affected by atmospheric changes.
Guiding clues are: predict the day he will die. Aversion to music, it makes her sad. Clairvoyant and prophetic dreams. Burning thirst for large quantities of cold water. Anxiety, worry, and fear accompanies the most trivial ailments. Pain are intolerable, they drive him crazy, and he becomes very restless at night. For the congestive stage of inflammation before localization takes place. Restless, anxious, does everything in great haste, must change position often. Everything startles him.
Hahnemann says, whenever aconite is chosen homeopathically, you must above all observe the moral symptoms and be careful that it closely resembles them. The anguish of mind and body, the restlessness, the disquiet not to be allied. Important symptoms are: first one, fever. Fever with anxiety. Fever with hot and dry skin. Fever with red face or alternately changing red and pale face. Fever with burning thirst for large quantities of cold water. Fever with intense nervous restlessness, tossing about in agony. Fever becomes intolerable towards evening and on going to sleep. Fever with hot and redness of one cheek and cold and paleness of other cheeks.
Inflammation of nerves. Inflammation of joints. Inflammation of testes. Inflammation of conjunctiva. Inflammation of lungs and pleura. Inflammation and redness of throat. Inflammation of endocardium and pericardium. Inflammation with redness of eyes after injuries. Inflammation of ovaries after sudden suppression of menses. Next, toothache. Toothache in sound teeth. Toothache in dry cold wind. Toothache extending from right to left.
Ailments from anger with anxiety and fear. Ailments from fright or from sight of an accident. Ailments from bad effect of checked perspiration. Ailments caused by exposure to dry cold air, dry north or west wind. Next symptom is cough. Dry cough during fever. Cough on expiration. Cough is loud, rough, croaking, hard, ringing and whistling. Cough after exposure to north or east wind. Barking, croupy, hoarse and suffocating cough. Cough from dry cold wind or draught of air. Convulsions of teeth in children. Convulsion with jerks and twitches of single muscle. In convulsion, child gnaws its fist, frets and screams. In convulsions, hot and dry skin with high fever. Next is faintness. Faintness after urination. Faintness during menopause. Faintness after fright. Faintness during palpitation. Faintness with unconsciousness. Faintness often accompanies by vanishing of sight. Faintness on rising from recumbent position, the red face becomes deathly pale and he fears to rise again. Larynx and trachea. Constriction of larynx. Dryness of trachea. Burning pain in larynx. Croup after exposure to cold dry air. Larynx is sensitive to touch and cold air. Next is extremities. Numbness of legs after sitting. Numbness of left forearm. Formication of hands and palms. Numbness and tingling of left arm and fingers with heart complaints. Next is fear and anxiety. To cross the street causes palpitation of heart with great nervous excitability. The countenance is expressive of fear. The life is rendered miserable by fear. Thinks that is sure his disease will prove fatal. Fear of death during heart symptoms, labor and pregnancy. Afraid to go out, to go into crowd where there is any excitement or many people. Headache after fright. Headache during coryza. Headache with epistaxis. Next is aggravation. Aggravation at evening and night. Aggravation in a warm room. Aggravated when rising from bed. Aggravation from lying on affected side. Next, urinary symptoms. Painful urging to urinate, retention of urine in newborn, involuntary urination with fear and thirst, ineffectual urging to urinate in children. Other symptoms are amelioration in open air, coryza caused by dry cold wind, stomach pain after drinking cold water, amenorrhea in young plethoric girl especially after fright. We can call core symptoms of aconite as apricot. A for anxiety, worry and fear, aversion to musics, acute or recent cases. P for pain or intolerable, predicts the day he will die. R for redness and paleness of face, alternately changes in fever, restlessness. I for inflammation before localization takes place. C for clairvoyant and prophetic dreams. O for occurring in young persons who lead a sedentary life. T for thirst for large quantities of cold water. Relation. Complementary to cophia in fever, sleeplessness, intolerance of pain. Complementary to arnica in traumatism. Complementary to sulfur in all cases. Rarely indicated in fever which brings out of eruption. Aconite is the acute of sulfur, and both precede and follow it in acute inflammatory conditions. And thank you. We'll see you with the next video presentation of medicine, arsenicum iodatum.